Hi, good evening. This video is related with physics and society. This complex interactions between the British and Indian system of knowledge can also be seen in the case of medicine. For Indians, medical science was part of much wider philosophy of influence, which also had a strong social implications because the science of ethics was in part of environmental one. As with the relationship between astronomy and astrology, the transformative medical art were also related to popular practice in subtle way. Learned practice shared the same moral universe and exorcism and white magic. Some famous seat of exorcism such as Balaji temple near the Bharatpur and many Muslim shrines supported the exorcist alongside the priest who prescribed fast and Ayurvedic remedies for illness. One another conceptual boundary, medicinal chemistry shaded into the search for philosopher's stone. The sect such as the Siddha, ascetic, supposedly spiritual, and dissident of the ancient rishi or sage, purified their own substance by ascetics, practices to overcome death, greater disease of all, and they were also rumors to proceed the secret of converting base metal into the gold, since that too involve transformating substance. Likewise, the medical knowledge among the Muslim was the discipline part of much larger body of lore, which include the folk beliefs and esoteric practices. Even elite Muslim believe in the black magic and sought a way in which to cast out a spirit and transfer evil to enemy and the proxies. So the Ghalib, for example, once expressed great concern that his brother was possessed of an evil spirit and detailed his visit to an exorcist. Muslim worshipping at shrine sought to capture the charisma of famous saint in cloth or in the water jar, so as the transfer it back to sick people and thereby heal them. For Islam had inherited the Greek Asclepian traditions which associated the healer with divinity, and additionally the traditions of Jewish prophethood in which the power of healing was seen as a mark of God. So hikmat, like the Sanskritic equivalents, was more than medicines. It was natural philosophy, and the Hakim were doctor of natural law. So here again, the medicinal exercise that is believed to have its esoteric side and its medicinal chemistry and knowledge of property of quicksilver was entered into the alchemy. So in the Indo-Islamic world, as in the most other society, king became patron of healing, and their own body were conceived of engineering, healing agent. Indian ruler were patriarchally concerned to foster an interchange between Sanskrit and Islamic medical lore and translating the work of Galen into the Sanskrit and the medical Veda into the Persian. Despite their hostility to Portuguese political pretension, and the Mughal and their noble took particular note of the surgical skills which Europeans such as the Bernier, Manuki, and the Sarman could bring them. Doctor like medical remedies were prized at the court, and they were passed from one ruler to another as a gift and became the politically powerful in their own right. One physician even became governor of Surat in the early 19th century Punjab with an ailing king and society that sacrificed by the cholera, doctors wielded even the greater influence. So physicians were additional and important information gathered for the state of the body, and those residents in the cities held a regular council and could frame the broad calculation of mortality rate by the ordering the custodian and the city gate Darwan to count the corpses and passing outside for the burial or the burning. In the village, the Brahmin sometimes kept record of the death, which could provide information for the Vaidyas. So the status achieved by the doctor did not, of course, exempt from the popular belief that they were quarrelsome and incompetent or leecher who used their privileged position to grope the female patients. So, as with the astronomy, medical practitioners form a hierarchy, but the Western observer exaggerated its rigidity and also underestimated the extent to which medical law had also become a form of wider public knowledge and the most eminent practitioner in both the Sanskrit and the Islamic tradition. So preserved their own text and passed them from one generation to the next. There were the famous Tibkhana and Hyderabad, Delhi and Lucknow, cities with the reputation for healing expertise. In Banaras, the family of Ahmullah Khan was given the 2000 revenue free land as a service grant, provided they distributed the free medicines to the poor and they gave medical advice to them to perpetuate it. So Jonathan's Duncans contribute to the grant in 783, but as with so many services and the original purpose of the grant had been overlooked after the two generations, and the distributions of the medicines came to end and early in the 19th century. Medical knowledge waxed and waned along with the fortune of the late Mughal service elite. High percentage of officer of state and military men had some knowledge of medicines, and the good number wrote to the transcribed medicals or veterinary texts. At least 500 volumes of Arabic manuscripts or medicines and twice the number of Persian and Urdu treatises existed in the Raja Library of the Rampur and one of the 18th century. So great library. Nor was the traditions limited to Muslim, and the treatment of the disease of human, horses and elephants were favorite topic in the emerging Hindi literature of Rajasthan. It is difficult to get a clear impression of number of specialist physicians. Prizing a tone for the learning of its Hakim was aspect of eulogy from the ancient Baghdad through to modern city like Delhi. At the beginning of this 19th century, Indian official in Jodhpur told the Wailu and that the city population of nearly 1,50,000 boasted no fewer than 80 Vaidya household with 400 members and the 40 Hakim household with 200 members. In contemporary Jaipur, there were 4,500 Hakim and 1,250 Vaid, 900 to 230 houses, respect for the populations. About 4 lakhs doctors were among the largest learned professional and the grouping. If we assume 2 male members of this family and practice, we have figure of about 1.5 physicians per 100 of the population in the Jodhpur and were every 100 people in the Jaipur. Alongside the dedicated specialists, as in the pre-modern system of medicine, were a host of the people with some degree of skills who offered the advice or the remedies or on informal basis. Medicine merged into the other learned subject, and many ordinary ulema and Sufi had read the medical treatise and were prepared to practice within their family or among the dependents. So prayer, charismatic touches, exorcism and medicines were all entangled, as in the other classical civilizations and the certain changes we can notice here, again in the Pansari who supply the drugs also seem to have acquired some respectability in the independent pharmacist making of the drugs to the instructions of Hakims. So next there were the numbers of medical specialists and the barber surgeons who bled people, the potters who were responsible for setting bone, and the intendants eye doctors who remove the cataract, and the specialists who deal with the sword wound, and the various nurses for childbirth, abortion and disease of human. So healing was hierarchically graded, and the more damning the form of medicines, and the lower the status of the operatives' medical knowledge, and embrace a large number of dedicated and part-time people. So to which were soon to be added, and the retired Indian sepoy who had been hospitals, and the outrings or pharmacists attached to government dispensary. Such people began to diffuse some European technique in their retirement village.